Every single time you swipe your credit card, your brain releases the exact same chemical as a gambler winning a slot machine. And that is not an accident. You are not holding a payment tool. You are holding the result of decades of neuroscience research, behavioral psychology studies, and one very deliberate design decision made by people who understood your brain better than you do. You don't know it yet, but the most expensive thing you will ever buy is not a house, not a car, not a vacation. It is the feeling that you are in control of your own spending. Think about the last time you paid with cash. Not long ago, maybe, but think about how it felt. The physical act of counting bills, watching the number in your hand get smaller, handing it over and feeling the weight of it leave. Now think about swiping or tapping. One motion, a sound, a green light, and you walk away with whatever you came for. The purchase is the same. The amount spent is identical. But something in your body responds differently to each one. Researchers at MIT placed electrodes on participants and had them bid on the same items using cash versus credit. When people paid with cash, the pain centers in their brain activated. They felt the loss. With credit, those centers stayed quiet. The brain did not register that anything had been taken. Translate that into a human fact. Credit cards make your brain temporarily incapable of feeling like you spent money. Not metaphorically, neurologically. You were just living your life. Here is the thing about dopamine. Most people think it is the pleasure chemical, that you feel it when something good happens. That is not quite right. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It fires in the moment before the reward. The swipe, the tap, the click of a shopping cart completing. The notification that your order has shipped. The reward itself, actually having the thing, barely moves the needle. What this means is that your brain is not addicted to the purchase. It is addicted to the moment of purchase. The act, the motion, the decision. And the moment it receives that signal, it immediately begins looking for the next one. Your friend Marcus has the same salary as you. He uses a debit card. Feels nothing particular when he pays for things. Checks his balance on Sunday. The number is always roughly what he expects. It is just a number. You got a card at 22 because of the points. 40,000 bonus miles if you spent 2,000 in the first 3 months. You hit the target. You redeemed the miles for a flight you would have taken anyway. And then you kept the card. You were just living your life. Have you ever done this? Have you ever bought something online, closed the laptop, and felt completely fine, until the package arrived and the charge appeared on your statement and it was somehow more than you remembered? The moment of purchase feels different from the moment of consequence. There is a gap between them. A few days, sometimes weeks. And in that gap, your brain has already moved on. The dopamine has already reset. The purchase already feels like something that happened in the past, something you cannot change anyway. This gap was not an accident. It was a product feature. Before credit cards became what they are today, there were voices warning that consumer credit was being designed to delay consequence indefinitely. Those voices were heard in panels and committee rooms. And then the meeting moved on to other topics. The gap between swipe and statement got longer. Minimum payments got smaller. The language on the bill shifted from amount owed to amount due. One word. The entire psychological relationship changed. Owed sounds like a debt. Due sounds like a subscription. You were just living your life. Here is where the money actually goes, and this is the part that never appears on the rewards brochure. You carry an average balance of $3,000. The card charges 24% annual interest. You make the minimum payment every month. On time, every time, because you are not irresponsible. At that rate, it takes 11 years to pay off that balance. You pay back the original $3,000, plus $2,200 in interest. You paid for the thing you bought twice, and the second payment bought you nothing. Now multiply that across the average American household, which carries $8,000 in credit card debt. At the same rate, that household pays the bank more than $6,000 in interest before the balance clears. Assuming they stop adding to it today. They will not stop adding to it today. The product was designed to make stopping feel like deprivation. Now consider what happened in the moment you swiped. 4 parties were involved in that one transaction. The bank owned the lending product. The payment network owned the rails the transaction traveled on. The retailer owned the sale. And you walked away with the item. For participants, one liability, and it belonged entirely to you. The bank collected a transaction fee from the retailer. The payment network collected a processing fee from the bank. The retailer booked a sale, and you received a balance that grows every month you do not clear it. Everyone in that exchange made money the moment you spent. You are the only one still paying for it weeks later. This is not a coincidence. It is the architecture. The system was not broken. It worked exactly as it was designed to work. The only question is, designed for whom? Here is what makes this harder to see clearly. There is no villain in a back room making it worse on purpose. No one inside the system needed bad intentions for it to work this way. The bank employee who approved your application was doing their job. The marketer who designed the rewards campaign was doing their job. The executive who approved the minimum payment formula was doing their job. Each of them was rewarded when spending increased. Bonuses, targets, quarterly numbers. The incentive was always the same: get more people spending more money more often. No one had to want to hurt you. They just had to want to hit their number. And the system did the rest. This is how structures work. They do not require individual cruelty. They only require that everyone follows the incentive in front of them. And when every incentive in the chain points toward more spending, the outcome is not an accident. It is a result. Think about the last time you stayed in something longer than you should have. A job, a relationship, a subscription, a habit. What made you stay? Usually it was not that you did not see the problem. Usually you saw it clearly. But leaving felt like losing. Staying felt like keeping your options open. Banks call this retention, and they are very good at it. You have spent 14 months paying down a balance. You are not done. Stopping now feels like wasting everything you already paid. So you keep the card active because closing it would feel like admitting something. But the payment you made last month? $42 of it went to principal. The rest went to interest. The bank made more money from your responsible payment than you reduced your debt. Credit card companies in the United States generated over $130 billion in interest and fee income in a single recent year. That number does not come from people who defaulted and disappeared. It comes primarily from people who pay. People who are responsible. People who make their payment every month without fail. The profitable customer is not the one who never pays. The profitable customer is the one who always pays just enough to stay in the game. Which means debt is not a side effect of this business. Debt is the product. The card is just the delivery mechanism. If debt creates the revenue, what exactly is being sold? There is one more layer most people never think about, and it is the one that makes the whole system almost impossible to leave voluntarily. The card in your wallet is not just a payment tool. It never was. Look at what they named them. Gold, platinum, black, infinite. These are not descriptions of a financial instrument. They are a hierarchy, a ranking system, a signal to everyone in the room about where you stand. When the card came out of your pocket at dinner, something happened before a single dollar moved. People noticed, not always consciously, not always in a way they would admit, but the card said something about you, and you knew it. A financial product became an identity product. And identity products are something different entirely. You can decide to spend less. That is a financial decision. You can do the math and make a different choice. But deciding to be seen differently? To give up the signal the card sends? To hand over a plain card when everyone else at the table reaches for something with a name on it? That is not a financial decision anymore. That is a social one. And social decisions cost more than money. This is not an accident either. The tiered system, the names, the colors, the weight of the card in your hand, all of it was designed to make the product feel like something you earned. Something that said something true about you. Something that would cost you socially to give up. The debt stays partly because of interest rates, but it also stays because of what the card means. And meaning is much harder to walk away from than a number. Comes on a Wednesday. Not a dramatic Wednesday. An ordinary one. You are making coffee. You open your banking app for no particular reason, a kind of reflex, and you look at the number. You have been carrying this balance for almost 2 years. You have been making payments. The number has moved, but slowly, and sometimes it has moved the wrong way. And on this Wednesday you do the math for the first time. Not the monthly math. The full math. How long until this is gone? The number you get back is not what you expected. You put the phone face down on the counter. You pour the coffee. You stand at the window. Your hands are on the mug. This is the moment the product was designed to delay for as long as possible. Now here is the question that has been sitting underneath everything. If the system was engineered, if the gap was intentional, if the minimum payment was calculated to maximize interest, if the status hierarchy was designed to make the product feel like identity, then why do you feel like the failure is yours? Who taught you that? Because you were taught it. By every article that leads with "stop buying coffee." By every app that grades your discipline. By the language on the statement that says you owe, placing the ownership entirely in your hands and none in the structure that was built around you before you ever signed anything. The guilt is not incidental. The guilt is a feature. A person who feels guilty spends their energy on shame. They do not look at the architecture. They look inward. They try harder. They swipe again, more carefully this time, more responsibly, and the cycle continues and the interest compounds and the balance stays roughly where it was. Something shifts on a Thursday in April. No announcement. No ceremony. The balance drops below $1,000. You almost do not notice until the evening. You check the app, the same reflex as always, and the number is there. Nobody throws a party. The bank sends you an offer for a new card with a higher limit. You close the app. You finish dinner. You were just living your life. But this time, that phrase means something different. This time, the life was yours. Maybe you have already seen this pattern somewhere in your own life. Maybe you are in the middle of something that feels a little like this right now. Maybe this is the first time you have stopped and looked at the architecture rather than blaming yourself for standing inside it. Think about the friend who is still swiping and still wondering why the balance never moves. The parent who took the store card at checkout because the discount made sense in the moment. The colleague who is sharp, careful, good with numbers at work, and somehow still underwater at home. They are not failing. They are inside a system that was built to look like freedom and function like a treadmill. A system where the incentives were designed long before they arrived. Where the gap between spending and consequence was engineered into the product. Where the card was made to feel like identity so that walking away would cost more than money. This was never really about credit cards. It was about how systems shape behavior without anyone in the system needing to mean harm. How incentives produce outcomes. How structures built around you become structures you believe you chose. The question that stays after all of it. Not what should you do differently with your money, but what else in your life right now looks like a choice and isn't.